Donovan Reed didn't expect to be home that Thursday afternoon. He wasn't supposed to be. Not with 3 meetings downtown and a city council dinner later that evening. But somewhere between signing off on a lease agreement and sipping burnt coffee in his car, the thought of going back to his penthouse just for a moment settled into his mind like a whisper he couldn't ignore. The elevator ride up was silent, save for the faint hum of jazz from the building's sound system. 8th floor. 9th. By the time the doors opened onto the top floor, Donovan had already pulled off his tie, unfastened the first 2 buttons of his shirt, and rolled his sleeves to the elbow. He didn't expect anyone to be there. He certainly didn't expect her. She was standing in the middle of his open-plan living room, a bottle of citrus spray in one hand, a microfiber cloth in the other. She hadn't heard him enter. And then she turned. It wasn't the curve of her shoulders or the tired slump in her posture that caught his attention. It was the stark white bandage on her right cheek, thin gauze taped carefully over skin that despite her efforts couldn't hide the deep purple shadows forming beneath. For a moment, neither of them spoke. She straightened quickly, eyes darting away from his chin, lifting with quiet dignity. "Mr. Ree," she said softly, "I didn't know you'd be home." He didn't answer right away, just looked at her. Really looked. He'd seen her before Monica Ellis, new assigned by the agency 3 weeks ago. Young, maybe early 30s, slim, serious professional, always on time, always quiet. She moved through his home like a whisper, never touching more than she needed, never lingering in the rooms he occupied. He knew nothing about her except that she smelled faintly of lavender and something citrusy, and now apparently that she wore bandages and flinched when spoken to. "What happened to your face?" His voice wasn't loud, but it landed heavy between them. Her hand rose instinctively, fingertips brushing the edge of the gauze. She gave a half smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Just clumsy." "I slipped on the bus stairs." He raised an eyebrow. "Slipped." "I'm fine." She turned away too quickly, setting the bottle down on the counter. "I'll be done here in 10 minutes. Donovan didn't move. Something about her tone, light, dismissive, practiced, rubbed against a part of him he usually kept locked away. A part that recognized performance when he saw it. "You always this fine when you're bleeding?" he asked, quieter this time. Her back stiffened. It was meant to be a joke. It didn't land like one. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice clipped now. "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable." He stepped further into the room, loosening the cuff on one wrist. "You didn't." She nodded, not looking at him. Instead, she busied herself with reorganizing the throw pillows on his sectional pillows he never touched, barely noticed. She adjusted one, paused, then gently turned it around so the embroidery faced outward. Donovan watched her fingers work. Careful. Intentional. Like someone who believed details mattered even when no one was watching. "You always this quiet?" he asked. That got a reaction. She looked up surprised. "I just clean," she said after a pause. "That's all I'm paid to do." Donovan tilted his head. "That's not all you do." She blinked. "Sir, you leave the windows cracked open exactly 3 inches. You rotate the coasters on the coffee table so the sun doesn't fade the pattern. You replaced the diffuser reeds in the guest bathroom. No one told you to do that." A pause. "I like things to smell fresh," she murmured. "You reorganized my bookshelf, just the top shelf. The titles were out of order. You put them in color sequence. They looked nicer that way." He took another step forward. "You brought in flowers." She hesitated, then nodded. "From my backyard." "Just a few?" "I noticed. I didn't think you would." He didn't respond. The silence stretched between them, thick, uncomfortable, but not unfriendly. Monica cleared her throat and reached for her cleaning caddy. "I should go." "Do you have another shift after this?" She nodded. He glanced at the clock. "You'll be late if you don't leave now." She looked up again, surprised by the shift in his tone. Less interrogative, more. Concerned, Donovan moved to the kitchen island, picking up the mail he hadn't sorted in days. "If someone's bothering you," he said casually, not looking at her, "I know people who could help." Quietly. The pause that followed was long. "I don't need help," she said finally. "I need to work. And I need to keep this job." Donovan met her gaze, held it. There was something behind her eyes, pride, maybe, or fear. Maybe both. "Understood," he said. She gathered her things and walked toward the elevator head, high steps, steady. But right before the doors closed, she turned back. "Thanks for noticing," she said quietly. The elevator slid shut. Donovan stood alone in his immaculate living room, the scent of lavender still hanging faintly in the air. For someone who moved like she wanted to disappear, she'd somehow left the entire room feeling different. Warmer. Realer. He glanced toward the bookshelf. The colors really did look better that way. He smiled just slightly. Then, without fully understanding why, he picked up the small bouquet she'd left on the kitchen table and moved it to the windowsill where the light could hit it just right. If you enjoyed this video, comment 1. To let me know. If not, comment 2. Your thought matter to me either way. The next morning came wrapped in thick gray clouds, the kind that made everything feel quieter than it really was. Monica Ellis stood in front of the bathroom mirror, carefully dabbing foundation over the edges of the bandage on her cheek. It didn't cover the bruise. Not really. But it blurred the lines enough that she could avoid the stares, the questions, the sideways glances that made her chest tighten. She adjusted her ponytail, smoothed her uniform, and checked her watch. 7:42 a.m. Tia's lunch was packed. Her backpack was by the door. Monica moved through the motions like always, quiet, quick, efficient. Breakfast toast on a paper towel, gentle reminders to tie shoes, a kiss on the forehead. "I love you, be good, don't talk to strangers." Routine. But her thoughts were back at that penthouse. She hadn't expected him to notice. That man had the kind of presence that filled a room without saying a word, the kind people whispered about. And yet he'd seen her. Really seen her. It unsettled her more than the bruise did. Mom Tia looked up from her cereal. "Are you okay?" Monica blinked. "What you didn't sing." Monica's chest ached at that. She always hummed in the mornings old soul songs, something soft to keep the rhythm of the day. Her grandmother used to sing them when things got hard. She reached for the edge of the counter, steadying herself. "Sorry, baby," she whispered. "Just thinking." Tia narrowed her eyes, her 7-year-old intuition already too sharp. "Are you thinking about the man with the fancy windows?" Monica stiffened. "What you said you cleaned for someone who lives way up high, and his place smells like lemons and nothing else." She let out a soft laugh. "That's Mr. Ree." "Is he nice?" Monica hesitated. "I don't know yet." Later, after school drop-off, she walked the half-mile to the corner bus stop. The streets were still damp from early rain, and Savannah's air carried that sweet heaviness that stuck to your skin. As the bus rumbled past historic homes and sleepy storefronts, Monica stared out the window, trying not to feel nervous. When she stepped off at her stop and rounded the corner to Donovan's building, her heart tapped a little too fast. She paused just before entering, checked her reflection in the glass, breathed. She could do this. She had done harder things. Upstairs, the penthouse was quiet. She let herself in with the code her agency had provided. It was always clean, of course, clean in the way that rich men's homes often were, minimal, expensive, untouched. But there was something else about this place. Something hollow. She moved through the living room like usual shoes off at the entrance, soft steps on marble gathering dust with each practiced motion. The windows framed the skyline, gray and moody today, the city below stretching into morning. Then she saw it. Her flowers. She hadn't brought any today, but yesterday's bouquet, just a handful of cut gardenias from the struggling bush behind her building, had been moved, positioned perfectly on the windowsill facing the light. She hadn't done that. He had. Something fluttered in her stomach. She reached for the vase, fingers grazing the cool glass, and just stood there for a moment. "Good morning?" The voice came from behind her, low and smooth. Monica spun around, startled. Donovan stood barefoot in black slacks and a plain white shirt unbuttoned at the collar. No suit, no formality, just him. Still sharp, still quiet, but softer somehow. Or maybe it was the way the morning light hit his face. "You're here?" she said before she could stop herself. He nodded, moving to the counter and pouring himself a cup of coffee. "Meetings got pushed. I thought I'd work from home." She tightened her grip on the cloth in her hand. "I didn't mean to interrupt." "You're not interrupting," he said, leaning on the island. "This is your time slot, right?" She blinked. "Yes, sir. Then this is your space, too." That threw her a little. He took a sip, watching her. "The flowers look better by the window. They don't last as long in direct light," she replied, tone automatic. "But they're prettier," he said simply. There was a pause. She didn't know how to stand, how to breathe right when he looked at her like that. It wasn't flirtation. It wasn't inappropriate. It was just attention. Focus. As if she were the only thing in the room worth noticing. He gestured to the bandage on her cheek, his voice softer now. "You're sure you're all right?" She hesitated. "It's healing." "That's not what I asked." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "You said you don't like mess." This, she gestured vaguely to her face, might qualify. His lips lifted in a half smile, more thoughtful than amused. "I don't mind mess. I mind dishonesty." Monica looked away suddenly, too aware of everything, how her shoes squeaked just slightly on the floor, how the air felt warmer than it had a moment ago. "You don't know me," she said finally. "No," he agreed. "But I notice things. You don't just clean. You arrange, adjust, observe. You work like someone who knows how to stay invisible." That struck her deep. Her voice, when it came, was barely above a whisper. "Sometimes invisible is safer." Donovan set his mug down, walked around the island until he was closer. Not too close, just enough. And sometimes, he said, it's just lonely. Monica couldn't look at him. Her throat felt too tight. She didn't understand why he cared, why he was saying these things. This wasn't how things worked. She cleaned, he paid. That was the arrangement. Still, she asked, "Why are you talking to me like this?" "Because I don't want to forget what it's like to talk to someone real," he said. A beat passed. She stepped back. "I have to finish the guest bathroom." He nodded, but before she turned, he said, "If you ever need anything, help, a ride, a recommendation, I want you to know that you can ask." Her breath caught. "Why?" He didn't smile this time. "Because I think you've been handling too much alone for too long." She left the room before she could let him be right. In the guest bathroom, Monica gripped the edge of the sink, eyes burning. Not because he made her uncomfortable, not because he crossed a line, but because he hadn't. Because he'd looked at her like she wasn't a problem to fix or a task to manage. He looked at her like she mattered. And that was the most dangerous thing of all. It was well past midnight when Donovan finally gave up on sleep. The city outside his floor-to-ceiling windows had gone quiet. Savannah after dark always carried a certain softness, like even the ghosts had decided to rest. But inside the penthouse, silence pressed in differently. Not peaceful, just Chooks hollow. He moved through the dark, barefoot, on cold marble drawn by instinct more than need. His hands found the familiar edges of the kitchen counter, and for no reason he could name, he flipped on the small under-cabinet light. It cast a soft glow on the granite surface and the vase. Still there, the same gardenias, wilted now petals curling inward but stubbornly holding their shape. He should have thrown them out days ago. Instead, he touched one with the back of his finger, then stepped back like the bloom had burned him. Donovan wasn't a sentimental man. His world didn't make space for softness. But something about that woman, Monica, kept pressing against the edges of his carefully controlled existence. Not loudly, not dramatically, just persistently. And he wasn't used to being noticed either, not for who he was beneath the reputation, which made it harder to ignore the way her voice had trembled when she said, "Sometimes invisible is safer." It echoed in his head like a song he couldn't forget. The next day, Monica's shift came and went, but she didn't show up. By the time the afternoon light had slid across the floor in golden slants, Donovan found himself pacing, checking his phone, checking the building's entrance logs. No entry, no text, no explanation. He didn't even know why it bothered him this much. She was just a part-time cleaner, one of many. Replaceable. Except she wasn't. When she finally appeared 2 days later, she entered quietly, as usual, but she looked paler, tired. Her uniform neat, but her eyes dull. No flowers today. No humming. He emerged from his office the moment he heard the door. "I wasn't sure you were coming back," he said. She startled slightly, then straightened. "I had to swap shifts. My daughter was sick." A beat of silence stretched between them. He nodded slow. "Is she okay?" Monica hesitated, then offered a tight smile. "Better now?" He didn't push, though the urge gnawed at him. "I missed the flowers," he said instead, as casually as he could manage. She blinked. "What, the ones you usually bring?" He motioned to the now empty windowsill. "The room feels colder without them." For the first time since she'd walked in, her expression cracked just a little. "I didn't think you'd notice," she said softly. "I notice a lot of things," his voice lowered. "I notice you." Monica's breath hitched. She looked down, fiddling with the strap of her cleaning caddy. "Mr. Ree. Donovan." She looked up. "My name is Donovan." She swallowed her throat, working around something unspoken. "This isn't that kind of job." He nodded. "I know. I can't afford to lose this. I'm not asking you to." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was careful, like both of them were walking across ice, testing every step. Finally, she moved past him towards the kitchen. He watched her go, watched the way her shoulders hunched inward, like she was trying to shrink. It made something twist in his chest. As she wiped down the counter, he said quietly, "You shouldn't have to work this many jobs. I don't have a choice." "What if you did?" She stopped wiping, turned slowly. "Are you offering to rescue me?" He didn't flinch. "No, I'm offering you options." Her eyes searched his face hard. "You don't know me. I know enough. Then you'd know I don't take handouts." "Good," he said. "Because I don't give them." That caught her off guard. She crossed her arms. "Then what is this? I want to help you build something of your own," he said simply. Not as a savior, as someone who sees potential. Monica's expression shifted, disbelief softening into something almost vulnerable. She stepped closer without meaning to. "Why me?" she asked. "There are women in this city with prettier faces, easier stories." He tilted his head. "But they're not you." Her breath caught again, and she hated how easily he did that to her, how words like that could shake the armor she'd spent years building. "I don't have time for fairy tales, Donovan. Neither do I," he said. She looked away, jaw tight. You live in a glass tower. I live in a 2-bedroom with a leaky roof and neighbors who play loud music all night. Sounds like a place with life in it. Her lips quirked unwillingly. He leaned against the counter, arms folded. Have dinner with me. She blinked. Excuse me, not a date, just dinner. No expectations, just a meal between two people who've spent too long eating alone. Her guard went up immediately. People will talk. Let them. Monica stared at him. I've spent most of my life trying not to be seen, and now you're asking me to sit across from you in a restaurant where everyone knows your name. He stepped closer. Not invasive, just sure. No, he said. I'm asking you to sit across from someone who wants to know yours. And there it was again, that thing he did. The way he made her feel real. Not pitied. Not romanticized. Just seen. I'll think about it, she said finally. He nodded, stepping back. That's all I ask. She gathered her things without another word. But as she reached the door, he called after her. Monica. She turned. He held her gaze. Tell Tia I hope she feels better. Her chest squeezed. Thank you, she said softly. And for the first time in a very long time, Monica walked out of a room with her head a little higher, and a heart that wasn't sure what to do next. If you enjoyed this video, comment 1 to let me know. If not, comment 2. Your thought mattered to me either way. The dinner invitation sat in Monica's mind like a flickering candle, delicate, persistent, impossible to ignore. It had been 2 days since Donovan asked. 2 days of her heart saying maybe, and her head screaming absolutely not. She'd spent years building a life that didn't attract attention, that didn't make waves. Now one conversation in a penthouse kitchen had shaken the foundation she lived on. She didn't say yes. She didn't say no either. That afternoon after her final cleaning shift, she walked home slower than usual. Tia's school was only 4 blocks from their apartment, and she liked picking her up herself when she could. Tia was waiting out front with her teacher, arms crossed, tiny lips pouting. You're 4 minutes late, Tia declared. Monica grinned. I know. The bus was slow. Miss Camille said, 4 minutes is enough time to lose a game, or a race, or an idea. Monica crouched down. Did you lose an idea? Tia thought for a second. No, but I had a good one. Oh, I think we should have a picnic. Just us, with sandwiches and lemonade and music. Monica hugged her tight, the ache in her chest blooming like it always did when her daughter said something too sweet for the weight of their life. I think that's the best idea you've ever had. Back home, Monica made tuna salad and folded laundry while Tia practiced reading out loud in the living room. Her mind, however, kept circling back to Donovan, to the way he said, just dinner, to the way he hadn't pressed for more, to the way he'd looked at her like someone who deserved to be asked. She'd had attention before, flattery, flirting, cheap charm that faded the moment she said no. This wasn't that. This was different. Still, she needed to be sure. So the next morning before her shift at the boutique hotel, she took a small detour. Her old agency building sat off a cracked sidewalk on the east side of town. The lobby smelled like lemon floor cleaner and faint desperation. Genevieve was behind the desk typing with stiff fingers and a don't bother me face that softened only slightly when she saw Monica. You're not on the schedule today. I know, Monica hesitated. Do you have a minute? Genevieve pushed her glasses up her nose. I always have a minute for girls with questions and good instincts. Sit. Monica sat across from her. It's about Mr. Rhee. Genevieve's expression didn't change. Monica hesitated. He's never done anything inappropriate, ever. He's kind. That made Genevieve tilt her head. Kind is not the word I usually hear about that man. Monica's brows pulled in. You know him. Not personally. But in this town, his family name is like humidity. It's everywhere. His father ran the kind of real estate empire people whispered about. Donovan cleaned it up, made it shine. But trust me, there's always dust under gold floors. Monica frowned. So he's dangerous. Genevieve paused. I wouldn't say that. Just not easy, not casual. Men like that don't do halfway. If he's paying attention to you, he's already made up his mind. Monica's pulse kicked up. Genevieve leaned forward. Let me ask you something. Do you feel safe when you're with him? Monica blinked. Yes. Do you feel small? No. Then don't go digging for reasons to run away. Just go slow and stay smart. Monica nodded. Thank you. Genevieve sat back. But don't you dare get fired from this agency because of a crush. I need good cleaners. Monica laughed for the first time that morning. That evening, just before sunset, Monica stood in front of her tiny closet, unsure what counted as not a date clothing. Everything she owned leaned practical. Nothing flirted. Nothing even whispered. In the end, she chose a soft navy dress her aunt had given her 2 Christmases ago. She hadn't worn it once. Tia stood in the doorway, arms crossed, head tilted. You look like a teacher on TV. Monica smiled. Is that good or bad, Fancy? But not trying too hard. I'll take it. Are you going to dinner with your boss at Monica? Froze. It's just dinner. Tia nodded slowly. Okay. But if he makes you sad, I'm telling Pastor Monroe. Monica pulled her daughter in for a hug. You're my fiercest protector. 15 minutes later, Donovan's car pulled up in front of their apartment. It wasn't a sleek black Mercedes like she expected. It was a navy sedan. Modest, quiet. Frankie, his driver, stepped out and opened the door for her with a gentle smile. Miss Ellis. She tried to smile back, though her stomach was a knot. Is he already there? She asked. Frankie nodded. He's waiting at the restaurant. Said to take your time. When they pulled up to the place, a restored carriage house turned bistro tucked into the historic district, Monica hesitated. This wasn't flashy. It wasn't loud. The windows glowed soft amber. The sign was hand-painted. She stepped inside and found him immediately. He stood as she approached the table, eyes sweeping over her. Not in a way that made her shrink. In a way that made her want to stay. You came, he said, his voice warm. You asked? They sat. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Donovan said, You look like you belong in every room you enter. She laughed, nervous. That's not usually how I feel. You should. Dinner came in courses. Small plates, local ingredients. She didn't recognize half of what they served, but Donovan explained each one like it mattered. He didn't talk about himself much. Mostly he asked about her business ideas, about Tia's favorite subject, about her grandmother's gumbo recipe. And for the first time in years, Monica found herself talking, really talking without editing, without shrinking, without waiting for the moment to pass. Later, as dessert arrived, some delicate peach tart with a drizzle of something she couldn't name. Donovan leaned back and looked at her. Do you ever stop moving? She blinked. What you work, you mother, you plan, you guard. When do you just sit still and be? She paused, fork in hand. I don't know, she said. I think I forgot how. He nodded. Let me remind you. And the way he said it, soft. Sure, no expectations made something shift in her chest, not in fear, in hope. The quiet walk back to the car felt heavier than it should have. Donovan held the restaurant door open for Monica, but neither of them spoke as they stepped into the soft night air. The breeze off the river was cool, lifting the hem of her navy dress and brushing strands of hair across her face. She tucked them behind her ear, eyes lowered, heart still racing from how easy it had all felt. Dinner wasn't supposed to go like that. She wasn't supposed to enjoy it that much. She wasn't supposed to want to linger. Frankie waited beside the sedan, polite as ever, nodding silently before opening the back door. But Donovan didn't move. "Walk with me," he asked. Monica glanced at the car. "You don't want to ride back? I don't want to miss this weather." There was something in the way he said it. Not heavy, not flirty. Just simple. Present. She nodded once. They walked in silence for the first minute, their steps falling into a slow, comfortable rhythm along the cobblestone sidewalk. The street lamps cast golden halos across the path, flickering slightly with age. Monica tucked her hands into the pockets of her light coat. "That restaurant? You go there often?" "Not really." She turned to glance at him. He smiled slightly. "I don't get out much." "That's surprising. Why you just seem like someone who always has a table waiting." His smile faded, softened into something smaller. "When you own half the block, they save you a seat. Doesn't mean you always want it." She let the words sit between them a moment. Then quietly, "That's a lonely way to live." Donovan looked ahead, nodding once. "It is." Another few steps. Crickets chirped in the grass near the square. Somewhere faint jazz music drifted from a balcony speaker. "You asked me once if I ever stopped moving," Monica said, her voice barely above a whisper. He looked over at her. "I don't." "Not really," she admitted. "If I stop, things pile up. Bills, worries, memories. So I keep moving, like if I run fast enough, I won't have time to feel anything too deep." He didn't speak, just listened. Monica swallowed. "Dinner tonight was the first time I sat still in months." Donovan slowed to a stop. They stood at the edge of a quiet courtyard framed by old brick buildings and Spanish moss swaying above. "You deserve stillness," he said. "And peace. And good things." She looked up at him, eyes shining under the streetlight. "But I don't know what this is," she breathed. "Or what you want from me." Donovan's jaw tightened slightly. "I don't want anything from you, Monica." "Then why me?" He hesitated, then stepped just a little closer. "Because when you walk into a room, everything settles. Because you don't pretend. Because you listen like it matters and speak like it costs something." She stared at him, barely breathing. "And because," he added, "you bring flowers into a home no one lives in." Her lips parted, but no sound came. The wind rustled a paper napkin across the sidewalk. Donovan exhaled slowly. "I don't want to make you uncomfortable, or complicate your life." "You already have," she whispered. His eyes closed briefly. "I know." Then she did something neither of them expected. She reached out and touched his hand. Not a grasp, not a hold, just a brush of her fingertips against his. It was barely anything, but it was enough. They didn't speak after that, just walked the block back in quiet hearts louder than footsteps. Frankie opened the door again, pretending not to notice anything. In the car, the silence wasn't awkward. It was full thick with things unsaid. Donovan cleared his throat. "I'd like to meet your daughter one day." Monica turned to look at him, startled. "I know that's forward," he added quickly. I hear the way you talk about her, and I think anyone who matters to you should be important to me too." She studied him. "You don't even know me," she said again, softly. "I'm trying to," he replied. One slow moment at a time. She turned back to the window, hiding the way her lips trembled. When the car stopped outside her building, Donovan stepped out and walked her to the front door without asking. They stood at the bottom of the steps, the porch light flickering above them. Monica hesitated, then turned to face him. This can't be casual. I know. I have a daughter, a job I can't lose, a life I've built brick by brick with no help. I'm not here to tear any of that down. Then what are you here for? He looked at her long and steady. To remind you that you're allowed to want more. The silence that followed curled around them like smoke. She nodded slowly. I'll call you, she said. He stepped back. I'll wait. Then, before she turned to go, she reached up and touched his cheek. Just once. Just long enough to say everything her voice couldn't. That night, lying in her bed with Tia's soft breathing in the next room, Monica stared at the ceiling heart, pounding. She hadn't said yes, but she hadn't said no. And for the first time in a long, long time, that felt like a beginning. The next morning started like most others, toast 2 braids, 1 impatient child. But something in Monica felt shifted. Not dramatically. Not in a way she could name. Just lighter. Tia twirled in front of the mirror with her backpack on. Do I look like a girl who reads at a 4th grade level? Monica smiled. You look like a girl who can conquer anything. Tia grinned, proud. Can we have spaghetti tonight if you promise to actually eat it this time? I always eat it except the tomatoes. Monica narrowed her eyes playfully. Which are a key ingredient in spaghetti. Still counts. The sound of her daughter's laughter filled the apartment like sunlight. Monica soaked it in, storing it somewhere deep. She needed moments like these to ground her, especially today. Because today she was going back to Donovan's penthouse. And this time it wasn't just a job. She still brought her supplies. Old habits didn't die easily, but as she stepped into the private elevator and keyed in the familiar code, her chest fluttered in a way it hadn't before. When the doors slid open, the room greeted her like a waiting breath. Donovan was already there, leaning over the kitchen island, sleeves rolled, reading something on a tablet. He looked up the moment she stepped in. There was no polite nod, no distant acknowledgement. He smiled. You came. You opened the door. He chuckled under his breath and straightened. Coffee, I don't usually drink it here. He held up the mug. This one's not store-bought. I brewed it myself. She eyed him with cautious amusement. You brew your own coffee, I'm full of surprises. She stepped forward, slowly accepting the cup. Their fingers brushed. And just like that, they were in new territory. She took a sip. It was strong, a little bitter, surprisingly good. He watched her too closely. She set the mug down. I came to work. I didn't schedule you today. She paused. Then why give me the code? Because I hoped you'd come anyway. The words hung in the air, not heavy, just honest. She exhaled slowly. Donovan, I need to keep things clear. I understand. No, I don't think you do. Her voice tightened. When people like you start paying attention to women like me, it usually ends with someone getting hurt. He blinked. People like me. She folded her arms. Wealthy, powerful. Men who don't have to think twice about consequences. His face stayed neutral, but something flickered behind his eyes. He nodded slowly. That's fair. She hadn't expected him to agree. I've worked for men who barely made eye contact, who left messes like they expected me to disappear into the walls, who thought kindness was saying please once a month. He tilted his head. And you think I'm being kind as... What a strategy, I think it's confusing. He stepped around the counter, closer now. Still careful. I'm not trying to confuse you, Monica. Then what are you trying to do? I'm trying to be real. That stopped her. He gestured toward the living room. Will you sit with me for a minute? Just talk. She hesitated, then nodded. They sat on opposite ends of the long gray sofa, a neutral space between them. I had a mentor once, Donovan began. An older man, Korean-American like me, immigrant parents' business background, built himself from nothing. He said, "Success means being the calm in every room you enter." Monica nodded quietly, listening. Donovan glanced down at his hands. I built my life around that idea. Control, composure, never letting anyone see the mess. And it worked. But eventually it meant I stopped letting anyone see me at all. She studied him. What changed? He looked up at her. You. Her breath caught. I don't know why, he added quickly. I'm still figuring it out. But when you're here, this place feels different, alive, less like a fortress. Her throat tightened. I'm not trying to be anything for you. I know. I don't want to be someone's project, or someone's escape. You're not. Another pause, a long one. She looked away, voice low. I've worked hard for what little stability I have. I can't risk it. Not for something uncertain. His tone softened. Then let's not call it a risk. Let's just call it time. She turned to face him fully. Time for what? To know each other, without expectations, without pressure. Life doesn't work like that. Maybe not. But we get to decide what this looks like. She didn't speak. And then quietly, Tia asked about you. His brows lifted. Yeah, she asked if the man with the fancy windows makes me smile. He smiled slowly. What did you say? I said. He hasn't made me cry. Donovan's smile faded into something more sincere. I'd like to meet her, he said gently. Monica's heart skipped. She doesn't get attached easily. I'm not going anywhere. You say that now, I'll say it again tomorrow. They sat in silence, the weight of their unspoken fears sitting between them like an extra heartbeat. Finally, Monica stood. I should go. He rose with her. Of course. But as she moved toward the elevator, she stopped, turned. There's a community event Saturday. At her school, they're doing a family picnic thing. He didn't move, just watched her. If you want to come, I'll be there. She nodded once, then stepped into the elevator. As the doors closed, she pressed her fingers to her lips, her heart racing with something that felt dangerously close to hope. Back upstairs, Donovan returned to the kitchen, poured the rest of her coffee into a mug, and took a slow sip. Still warm. Still hers. Saturday came with the kind of golden morning that made the whole city feel softer. Sunlight filtered through the curtains of Monica's apartment, warming the hardwood floors as she stood over the kitchen counter slicing strawberries for Tia's lunchbox. The little girl sat at the table legs, swinging beneath her, carefully applying glitter to a homemade sign that read, "Welcome to our family picnic." Monica glanced over, lips twitching. "Don't get glitter on your shirt." Tia didn't look up. "Glitter is how people know I care." Monica laughed under her breath. Fair enough. Still, her fingers trembled slightly as she packed the snacks. She told herself it was the coffee. But really, it was Donovan. She hadn't seen him since that quiet conversation in his penthouse. Hadn't texted either. They'd agreed on time, no pressure, no expectations. And yet, the silence between them wasn't empty. It was full, loaded, waiting. Now he was coming to the school, to meet her daughter, in broad daylight, at a public event. Her mind cycled through every worst-case scenario. What if Tia didn't like him? What if other parents started asking questions? What if she let herself want something too much again? Mom Tia said, popping a grape into her mouth. Are you nervous? Monica blinked. What you keep squeezing the juice boxes like they stole something? Monica looked down. Sure enough, she was gripping a juice pouch so tightly it had puffed out like a balloon. She let out a breath. Maybe a little. Tia shrugged. It's okay. I get nervous too. Oh yeah. When I have to read in front of the class, or when I get a new teacher. But you told me that nervous means it's something important. Monica's throat caught. She looked at her daughter so full of courage in such a small frame. That's right, baby, she said. It means it matters. The school's lawn was already buzzing with families when they arrived. Folding tables lined the grass, each draped in gingham cloth and covered with potluck dishes. Kids darted between balloon arches and chalk-drawn hopscotch paths. Teachers mingled clipboards and hand faces warm with welcome. Monica scanned the crowd instinctively, her heart thudding. Donovan wasn't there yet. Good, she thought. She needed a few minutes to settle. Tia tugged her hand. Let's put our blanket by the tree. They found a spot beneath the big oak in the corner of the yard. Monica laid out the blanket and set down their basket, doing her best not to keep glancing toward the entrance. He might not come. She needed to be okay with that. Then she heard it. Tia's sudden inhale. There he is. Monica turned. Donovan stood just past the school's iron gate, a bouquet of sunflowers in one hand, wearing a soft navy polo and jeans. No driver, no suit, no entourage. Just him. Her breath caught. He spotted them instantly, his face easing into a quiet smile as he made his way across the lawn, weaving carefully between toddlers and folding chairs. When he reached them, he knelt down to Tia's level. Hi, he said gently. You must be the girl who likes glitter. Tia tilted her head, considering. You remembered, of course. And I brought you these. He held out the sunflowers. Tia's eyes widened. These are huge. They reminded me of you. Because they're bright. Because they stand tall. Tia beamed, cradling the flowers in both arms like a treasure. Monica watched them, heart swelling and twisting all at once. Donovan stood slowly and looked at her. Hi. Hi, she whispered back. I didn't bring food, he said, glancing at the spread. But I'm an excellent plate carrier. She laughed, the tension in her chest loosening. We'll let you earn your keep. The afternoon passed in gentle waves. Donovan helped with the sack race, cheered Tia through the water balloon toss, and even folded napkins at the snack table like he'd been doing it all his life. He didn't draw attention to himself, didn't slip away for phone calls, didn't even check his watch. He just showed up, present, steady, real. Monica watched him from a distance as he and Tia sat cross-legged on the blanket, playing a clapping game. Their laughter mixed with the breeze rising and falling like music. It was almost too much. She stepped away for a moment, needing space, pretending to check the dessert table. Genevieve spotted her near the lemonade stand and made a beeline over. Well, she said, sipping from her cup. He's braver than I thought. Monica blinked. You knew he'd come? Genevieve shrugged. Didn't think he'd have the guts to show up in dad jeans and sunflower confidence. Monica tried to hide her smile. Genevieve leaned in, voice lowering. Are you okay? I don't know, Monica admitted. It feels fragile. That's how you know it's real. They stood in silence a beat. Genevieve bumped her shoulder. You deserve good things, Monica. Don't talk yourself out of them. Monica nodded, eyes damp. Thank you. When she returned to the blanket, Donovan looked up, sensing something in her face. He didn't ask, just reached out and offered her a strawberry from Tia's snack bowl. She took it, and for a while they sat there, 3 people under a tree wrapped in sunlight, and something that looked a lot like possibility. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was enough. For today. It had been 4 days since the picnic, but the memory still floated around Monica, like the scent of warm bread, familiar, comforting, impossible to shake. She hadn't planned on seeing Donovan again so soon. And yet, Tuesday morning, as she arrived at his penthouse for her usual shift, he was already there. Waiting. Not in his usual place behind the glass desk, or seated at the massive dining table with a laptop. He was standing in the doorway when the elevator opened, like he'd known the exact second she would walk in. She paused halfway out. "I thought you had meetings. I moved them." She gave him a look. "You rescheduled billionaire meetings for a Tuesday morning Maid visit. I rescheduled billionaire meetings for a Tuesday morning you." Her breath hitched. She hated how easily he could do that, pull her off balance with a single line. He stepped back to let her in, but something in the air between them had shifted. The air held more weight now. Not tension. Anticipation. She moved past him, slowly setting her bag on the entry bench. "You're sure this isn't a bad time?" she asked. He shook his head. "I've had enough good deals to afford a bad Tuesday." She laughed softly, shaking her head. "That's not how it works for the rest of us. I'm learning that." As she moved toward the kitchen, he followed her quiet, watching. She could feel his eyes on her, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was deliberate, like he was studying her not to control but to understand. "I've been thinking," he said, leaning against the island as she wiped the counters. "That's dangerous." He smiled. "You said something once that you wanted more but didn't know what that looked like." She slowed, glancing up. He continued, "What if I told you I wanted to help you figure that out?" Monica straightened. "Donovan, I'm not looking for someone to fix me. This isn't about fixing," he said. "It's about building, with you, at your pace." She hesitated. What does that even mean? He stepped around the island, lowering his voice. "It means I want to invest in what you want. Not because I pity you, not because I'm trying to buy my way in, but because I believe in you. And I think you're used to people offering help that comes with strings." She swallowed. "All the help I've ever gotten had a price." He nodded. "I know." There was a pause, the kind where words became too fragile to say out loud. Then she said quietly, "What if I mess it up? Then we rebuild. And if I can't, then we start again." Monica closed her eyes. For a long moment she just stood there, one hand still on the edge of the sink, the other trembling just enough to notice. Finally she spoke. "I've been thinking about the flowers." Donovan tilted his head. "What about them? I stopped bringing them after that first week, but they kept showing up." He smiled softly. "I remembered the kind you brought." She looked up at him, voice barely above a whisper. "Why? Because they mattered to you. And what matters to you matters to me." The words sank into her warm and terrifying. "I'm not used to this," she said. "I know. I'm scared of needing someone. You don't need me," he said gently. "But you might want me, and that's enough." Silence wrapped around them again. Then softly she said, "There's something I haven't told you." Donovan waited. She took a breath. "My ex, he's not part of our lives, but he used to be. He wasn't cruel, but he was careless. He made promises he didn't keep. He'd show up late, or not at all. And every time Tia's face fell, I told myself I'd never let anyone disappoint her like that again." Donovan's eyes softened. "I've had to be everything she whispered. Mom, provider, guard dog, cheerleader, and it's made it really hard to let anyone else in." He nodded slowly. "Thank you for telling me. I don't want her to hope for something that doesn't last." Donovan stepped closer now, careful, deliberate. "Then I'll take my time. Not to impress her, not to win her over, but to earn the space." Her breath caught. "You say that so easily. It's not easy," he said. "But it's simple. You both matter. So I show up, again and again, until it's not scary anymore." Her eyes stung. She blinked it away. He took another small step. "Will you let me?" She nodded, her voice cracking. "I want to." That was enough. He didn't move to touch her, didn't close the distance, but his presence wrapped around her like safety. After a long silence, she chuckled quietly. "You know, most people just flirt awkwardly and ask for a phone number. I like to keep things complicated." She wiped at the corner of her eye, smiling now. "All right, Mr. Complicated. Let's say I take you up on this. What happens next?" Donovan smiled, quiet and steady. "We talk about what you want, about where you see yourself in a year, 5 years. And I find ways to help without getting in the way." Monica raised an eyebrow. "You plan 5 years ahead. I run companies. It's a habit." She shook her head. "What if I don't have a 5-year plan? Then we make one together." Her laughter bubbled up again, lighter this time. "Okay," she said. "Okay, let's talk." And they did. For the next hour she sat at the counter while he poured her more coffee, and they made lists on a notepad, dreams she hadn't said out loud in years. A bakery she always wanted to open, the small business classes she was too scared to take, the logo she'd once sketched on a receipt in the back of a city bus. Donovan listened to all of it, and when she finally gathered her things to leave, he walked her to the elevator like always. But this time he pressed something into her hand. A small notebook. "Write it all down," he said. "Every idea, every fear, every hope." Monica looked up at him. "And then what? Then we build it." The elevator doors closed slowly between them, and for the first time in a long time, Monica didn't feel like she was holding everything up by herself. She felt like someone was standing beside her, helping her dream again. The weeks that followed felt like learning to breathe in a new rhythm. Monica didn't fall into Donovan's life the way she feared she might. She didn't get swept up in glitz or lose herself in his polished world. Instead, she found herself in slow, steady inches. A phone call in the evening. A text that simply read, "You crossed my mind. I hope today treated you well." A meeting with a local women's small business group arranged quietly, paid for anonymously. He didn't rush her, didn't press for more than she could give. But his presence was constant, like a soft light always on in the corner waiting. One Friday morning, Monica walked into the cafe on East Broad, clutching the notebook he'd given her. She hadn't meant to fill it, but somehow every page had a voice, her voice. Half-baked menu ideas, floor plans for a tiny storefront, names of local bakers she'd met who might be willing to partner. It was chaotic, but alive. Donovan was already there, seated near the window phone, face down, coffee untouched. When he saw her, he stood, smile soft and unguarded. "You brought it?" he said, gesturing to the notebook. "I did." She slid into the chair across from him and laid it gently on the table. "I don't know what you'll make of it. I'm not here to judge. I'm here to see." He opened it carefully, like it might break in his hands. For minutes he read without speaking. His brow furrowed. Occasionally he nodded or murmured something under his breath. When he looked up, his eyes held something deeper. "This isn't a dream," he said quietly. "It's a blueprint." Monica let out a shaky breath. "It still feels like fiction." "It's not." He reached into his satchel and pulled out a manila folder. "These are commercial properties coming up for lease on the South End. Most are too big. But one feels like it fits." She stared at him. "You scouted buildings. I walked the block 3 times. Her heart stuttered. "I'm not pushing," he said quickly. "This is your decision. But I want to help Monica. Let me back you, even if all I do is open a door." Her throat tightened. "Why? Because the world is full of people who only show up when they want something. I want to be someone who shows up before the success, who sees it when it's still just ink on paper." She blinked fast, trying to keep it together. "You're dangerous, you know that." He smiled faintly, not in the way people think. A silence fell between them, full, not empty. Then her phone buzzed on the table. Unknown number. She frowned and picked it up. "Hello?" There was a pause on the other end, then a voice she hadn't heard in over a year. "Hey, Monica, it's Cameron." Her stomach dropped. She rose from her chair and stepped outside the cafe before she could process it, her pulse slamming in her ears. What do you want?" she asked, voice shaky. "I know I've been gone," he said quickly. "But I've been thinking a lot, about Tia, about you, about what I missed." Monica's hand tightened around the phone. "You didn't just miss it, Cam. You left." I know, I was selfish, I wasn't ready. But I'm in a better place now. I got a steady job, a new apartment. I've been sober 8 months. She closed her eyes. "I'm glad for you." "Really? But that doesn't mean you get to walk back in like nothing happened." "I don't want to mess things up," he said, voice soft. I want to see her." Monica felt her knees weaken. She leaned against the brick wall, the weight of every sleepless night rushing back like a storm. "I need time to think," she said. "I get that. Just don't shut the door, please." She hung up before she could say anything else. Back inside, Donovan was still seated, eyes on her. She slid back into the chair, hands trembling. He didn't ask, but she told him anyway. Cameron called. Donovan's expression didn't change, but his posture shifted, more alert now, quieter. "He says he wants to see Tia. Says he's changed. Says he's clean. Do you believe him?" She hesitated. "I believe people can change. I just don't know if he has." "Do you want him in Tia's life?" Monica shook her head slowly. "I want her to have peace. If seeing him brings that, fine. If it brings confusion or pain, no." Donovan was quiet for a moment. "Then, whatever happens, you're not facing it alone." She looked at him, startled. He leaned in, voice low. "You don't owe anyone a piece of yourself just because they suddenly remember you exist. And you don't have to explain your choices to anyone who didn't show up when it mattered." Her breath shuddered out. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I've worked so hard to keep her safe. What if I mess this up?" "You won't. You don't know that. I know you." She stared at him, everything raw and spinning. He reached across the table, not to take her hand, but to lay his palm flat beside hers. A choice. A presence. She looked down, then slowly, carefully placed her hand over his. Warmth. Steady and still. For the first time that day, she let herself breathe. Outside, the sky shifted. Clouds rolled in, slowly pulling shade over the sunlight. A storm was coming. But Monica wasn't alone anymore. Monica stood at the kitchen sink, staring out the window at nothing in particular. The sky had been gray all day, the kind of thick, unmoving overcast that pressed on her chest like a weight. Rain clung to the window pane in lazy streaks, as if the clouds couldn't quite commit. Behind her, the living room was quiet. Tia sat curled up with a coloring book humming under her breath, completely unaware of the knot forming in her mother's stomach. Donovan had offered to come by after work, but Monica had asked him not to. She needed space to think, to decide to brace for what was coming. Cameron was arriving in 10 minutes. She checked the clock again. Still 10 minutes. Her hands gripped the edge of the sink. She had told herself this meeting would be for Tia, a test run, neutral ground, just a short visit in the living room, no promises, no overnights, no long-term, anything. But even as she rehearsed the boundaries in her mind, old feelings crept in, doubt, resentment, a strange kind of guilt. She had carried every scraped knee, every missed school play, every question Tia had ever asked about where Daddy went. And now Cameron got to knock on the door and act like he was a chapter she had the option to reopen. The doorbell rang. Tia jumped up from the couch, her colored pencils spilling to the floor. "Mom, someone's here." Monica's throat closed. She wiped her hands on a towel and crossed the room slowly. "I know, baby. That's someone I used to know. I want you to stay close, okay?" Tia nodded, her eyes wide but curious. "Is it that friend you told me about?" "Sort of." "Monica," said, voice tight. "Let's just see how it goes." She opened the door. Cameron stood on the other side, dressed in a button-down shirt and jeans that still held creases from a department store bag. He looked older, thinner. His eyes were sober, but not sharp like a man trying to stand still in his own skin. "Monica," he said. She nodded once. "Come in." He stepped inside, wiping his shoes on the mat. His eyes scanned the room quickly, nervously, until they landed on Tia. Monica watched closely as his breath caught. "Hi," he said gently. Tia clung slightly to her mom's side. "Hi." Cameron crouched down. "You probably don't remember me. I'm your dad." Tia tilted her head. "You were gone." His face fell. "Yeah, I was. For too long." There was a beat of silence. Monica's hand rested on Tia's shoulder. "I used to sing to you," Cameron said, voice cracking. "The alphabet song, remember? You had a blue blanket with stars. I don't remember," Tia said bluntly. Cameron nodded, swallowing. "That's okay." Another pause. Then carefully, "Can I sit?" Monica gestured toward the couch. "Just for a bit." He sat. So did she. Tia lingered by the armrest, watching him like a scientist with a wild animal, curious but ready to bolt. "How's school?" he asked, trying for casual. "Good," Tia replied. "I like reading. That's great. Your mom always did too. I like math better. Even better." Tia frowned. Why'd you leave Monica's breath caught? She hadn't expected the question to come that soon. Cameron looked at her, then back to Tia. "I was scared. I didn't know how to be a dad. I made bad choices and then I didn't know how to fix them." Tia stared. Mom always stayed. Monica closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, Cameron was nodding. "I know," he whispered. "She's stronger than anyone." Tia looked at her mom, then back at him. "You don't get to just come back?" Monica almost wept. Cameron blinked fast. "I understand. I just wanted to see you, even for a little while." There was a silence so thick it could have drowned the room. Then Tia climbed up beside Monica and whispered, "Can I go finish my drawing?" Monica nodded. "Go ahead, sweetie." When Tia left the room, Cameron leaned forward, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. "I didn't come to mess anything up," he said hoarsely. "I'm not here to fight. I just needed to see her, to know she's okay." "She's more than okay," Monica said. "She's thriving, without you." He nodded slowly. "I can see that. She doesn't need you confusing her. I won't come again unless you say it's okay." Monica folded her arms. "I appreciate that. But I don't know what okay looks like right now." He stood. "You don't owe me anything, Monica. I'm sorry for every day I missed. Every call I didn't return. I thought I had more time. I didn't realize how fast it would all disappear." She looked at him for a long time, then finally said, "You should go." He nodded. "Thank you for letting me see her." When he reached the door, she added, "Stay clean, Cam. For yourself, if nothing else." He paused, then left without another word. The door clicked shut. Monica locked it, exhaled shakily, then sank to the floor. Her arms trembled. Her chest ached, but somewhere beneath the flood of emotions was a quiet knowing. She had done the right thing. That night, after Tia fell asleep, Monica stepped onto her apartment balcony and pulled her phone from her pocket. She didn't even have to think. She called Donovan. He answered on the second ring. "Hey." "Hey," she said, voice raw. "I've been thinking about you all day." She smiled faintly. It happened. He came. Silence. "Do you want to talk about it?" "Not yet," she said. "Just, can you stay on the phone a minute? I've got time," he said softly. And as she stood there, wrapped in the night, Monica listened to his steady breathing on the other end. No words, no pressure, just presence. And it was everything. The late winter sun stretched across the city, casting long amber shadows over the sidewalks and storefronts. Monica sat in the back of her favorite corner cafe, the one where all of this had quietly begun. Dreams whispered across tabletops, names doodled on napkins, plans folded into nervous laughter. The place still smelled like cinnamon and ambition. Across from her sat Evelyn Marsden, the woman from the city's Small Business Development Council. Elegant, sharp, not unkind, but clearly used to saying no when no needed to be said. Evelyn glanced down at Monica's proposal again, flipping through the binder with fingers too polished to ever touch raw dough. "It's ambitious." Monica folded her hands in her lap, steadying her breath. "So is starting over at 32 with a daughter and no safety net." Evelyn looked up, unreadable. "I'm not asking for charity," Monica continued. "I'm asking for a chance. I've already secured partial funding. My branding, sourcing, and operations plan are in place. I'm not coming to you with a dream. I'm bringing you a business." There was a pause. Then Evelyn closed the binder. "We'll need to do a site visit next week." Monica blinked. "Is that—" "A yes, it's a maybe moving toward yes," Evelyn replied. "And that's more than most." Monica smiled, the relief rushing in so fast it made her lightheaded. "Thank you. You're welcome." "And, Monica," she looked up. "Your story. The way you fought to get here, it shows. You wear it like armor. Don't forget to also let people see the heart underneath." Monica's throat caught. She nodded. As she walked out of the cafe, the wind cut sharp against her cheeks, but she didn't feel cold. Her feet moved faster than usual, a spring in her step, her phone already in her hand, before she even reached the corner. She called Donovan. "Hey," he answered, warm as always. "You okay? I might be better than okay," she said breathlessly. "Evelyn just said yes to a site visit. She thinks I might qualify for the full grant." "That's incredible." She could hear his smile through the phone. I needed to tell you first. I'm glad you did." There was a pause. "I want to do something," he said, "to celebrate." "You already helped me get here. I'm not talking business." She felt her stomach flip. "Tonight," he said. "Tia's with Genevieve, right? Yeah, for a sleepover. Then let me take you out. No meetings, no muffins, just us." She hesitated, heart thudding. "Okay, pick you up at 7. He hung up before she could overthink it. Back at her apartment, Monica stood in front of the mirror longer than she meant to. She changed outfits 3 times, ending up in a deep green sweater dress and boots. Comfortable. Simple. A little soft. By the time the knock came at her door, she'd half convinced herself he wouldn't show. But there he was. Coat collar up, hair tousled, holding a bouquet of white tulips. She laughed quietly. "What's with the flowers?" he offered them with a sheepish smile. I panicked and asked the florist what hope looks like, and she said, "White tulips." Monica took them gently, her hands brushing his. "They're beautiful. You're beautiful." The words landed so softly, so sincerely she couldn't pretend to laugh them off. So she didn't. They walked to the restaurant, something cozy, tucked between an art supply store and a bookstore Monica had never noticed before. Inside the lighting was warm, the tables close enough to feel intimate, but not crowded. Donovan ordered them a bottle of wine, and Monica let herself relax, let herself be seen. They talked about everything and nothing. Tia's newest obsession with penguins, the chaos of soft launching a business, how Donovan used to sneak out of meetings just to walk aimlessly downtown when the pressure felt too loud. At one point, he leaned in, voice lower. "You know what I realized the other day, that I don't miss the quiet anymore. Not the kind I used to chase, because this," he gestured between them, "feels more like peace than silence ever did." Her heart tripped over itself. "I've never really had this before," he added. "Not with anyone who saw me without all the noise." She blinked hard. "That makes two of us." The server brought dessert, warm bread pudding with caramel drizzle and 2 spoons. Monica took one bite and laughed. "This is dangerously good." Donovan grinned. "Not as good as your banana bread. You're just saying that. I've eaten 6 slices this week." She tilted her head. "That explains the extra gym time you mentioned." He laughed, reaching for her hand again. "It's worth it." Her fingers closed around his, and just like that, the world narrowed. Not in a small way, in a quiet, meaningful one. Like the room had softened to let them breathe a little easier. Walking home later, the city glittered around them, the streets slick with leftover rain. At her door, they stopped. Donovan brushed a strand of hair from her cheek. "I don't want to rush you." "You're not," she said softly. "I just—" He hesitated. "I care about you, Monica. I don't know what happens next, but I know I want to be in it." She looked at him, really looked. "I want that too." And then finally she kissed him, not rushed, not unsure, just there, full, real. When they pulled apart, he whispered, "Worth the wait." She smiled. "Let's write the next part slowly, together." He nodded. And in that moment, Monica knew, love didn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it came with white tulips. A key turned in a dusty storefront. A second chance walked slowly, hand in hand beside you. And sometimes, it stayed. Monica stood behind the bakery counter in the early hush of morning, surrounded by the comforting scent of vanilla butter and rising dough, the soft hum of the refrigerator, the faint tick of the clock above the window, the occasional groan of old pipes. Each sound was part of the rhythm she'd grown to love. Her hands moved without needing instruction, forming dough into clean, careful rounds, the way her grandmother used to show her as a girl. But today something was off. Her mind kept drifting back to the night before. The way Donovan had looked at her when she opened the door. The warmth of his hand over hers. The kiss, gentle, certain, real. It had left a quiet hum inside her chest, one that hadn't faded. But alongside the warmth was something else. A flicker of fear. She was happy, and that scared her more than she wanted to admit. Mom Tia's voice floated in from the kitchen, followed by quick footsteps. "We're almost out of napkins. Should I check the supply closet?" Monica blinked and looked up. "Yes, please. Check the box under the middle shelf." Tia gave a small salute and disappeared again. Monica took a steadying breath. Just another day. But her thoughts swirled like sugar in coffee, too fast, too loud, impossible to separate. The front bell jingled. She looked up expecting a regular, maybe Mr. Chen with his crossword puzzle, or the Parker twins on their way to school. But it wasn't either of them. It was Cameron. He stood in the doorway, clean-shaven, wearing a brown wool coat and a cautious smile. Monica stiffened. "We're open, but it's a little early for visitors." "I know," he said quietly. "I didn't come for muffins." She raised a brow. "Then what did you come for?" He hesitated, then stepped forward. "I wanted to say something. One thing. And I'll go." She folded her arms, but nodded once. Cameron looked around the shop. "This place, it's beautiful. It's you. Everything about it. Monica didn't reply. He cleared his throat. I've been going to meetings. Every week, I have a sponsor. I'm working on getting my electrician's license reinstated. She still didn't speak. I'm not here to ask for anything, he said, voice low. But Tia's birthday is coming up. I just want to send a card, that's all. Monica's jaw tightened. That's not up to me. That's up to her. Cameron nodded. I understand. A long pause stretched between them. She asked me last week, Monica said suddenly, why I stayed when everything felt so heavy. Cameron blinked. I told her it's because love isn't measured by who leaves. It's measured by who stays and does the work. His eyes fell. I'm late to the work. But you showed up, she said quietly. I'll give you that. Another beat passed. Then Monica added, you can send the card. Cameron's shoulders relaxed just slightly. Thank you. The bell jingled again as he left, and for a moment Monica stood completely still, the silence heavier than the words they hadn't spoken. Later that afternoon, as the lunch crowd filtered out, Donovan came by. His tie was loosened, his smile soft, and in his hand he held a small paper bag. Peace offering, he said, lifting the bag. Monica tilted her head. For what? For surviving a day where you look like you've been talking to ghosts. She smirked. That obvious. He walked around the counter and set the bag down. Empanadas, from that food truck you love. Monica exhaled. Thank you. You didn't have to, I wanted to. He reached out and brushed a thumb across her cheek. What happened? She leaned against the counter, voice low. Cameron came by. Donovan's smile faded slightly, but he didn't tense. He just listened. He wanted to send Tia a birthday card. That's all. Are you okay with that? I think so. She looked at him. I didn't expect it to hit me so hard. But it's not about him anymore. It's about her. Donovan nodded slowly. That's the hardest part, isn't it? Letting the story move on without dragging all the weight with it. Monica looked at him. You're not afraid of all this, are you? He took a breath. I used to be, but not with you. Her eyes filled, but she blinked quickly, swallowing the lump in her throat. Tia burst through the door, then waving a crumpled flyer. Mom, look, the library is having a poetry contest. That sounds fun, Monica said, grateful for the change in energy. The theme is home. I want to write about the bakery. And us. Donovan smiled. You'll win for sure. I haven't even written it yet. Doesn't matter. You already have the story. Tia beamed and ran back into the kitchen. Monica looked at Donovan. You always know what to say. He shook his head. No. I just know how to listen. Outside, the sky began to shift to gold again, and inside the shop glowed with quiet life. Muffins cooling, coffee brewing, laughter echoing from the back. She reached for Donovan's hand and held it tight. There were still hard days ahead. Still unanswered questions, but there was also a space built from resilience, from love, from starting over. And Monica had never felt more ready for what came next. The late afternoon sun spilled across the sidewalk, turning the windows of the old storefront gold. Monica stood just outside the door, key in hand, staring at the place that was slowly becoming hers. The sign above still read, Penny's Quilts, faded lettering, clinging to its last bit of relevance. Inside it was all dust and dreams and echo, but it was real. It was happening. She hadn't told many people yet. Just Genevieve, who'd screamed and danced with her in the kitchen like teenagers. And Donovan, who'd held the moment with the kind of reverence that made it feel sacred. Now Monica stood frozen, heart hammering in her chest. She turned the key slowly and pushed the door open. It creaked like an old story being reopened. The air inside was cool, heavy with the scent of wood and age. Dust motes spun in lazy spirals, where the light poured in through the front window. She stepped inside and let the door close behind her. There it was, her blank canvas. And then she heard the sound of small feet skipping. Tia rushed through the door behind her, wide-eyed and grinning. "This is it." Monica smiled, still stunned. "This is it." Tia spun in the center of the room. "It's huge. It's way bigger than I thought." Monica laughed. "It only feels big because there's nothing in it yet." "But that's the fun part," Tia said. "We get to fill it." Monica knelt down, brushing a stray curl from her daughter's forehead. "You really think I can do this?" Tia gave her the kind of look only a child can, completely sure, completely honest. "You already are." Behind them, the door opened again. Donovan stepped in holding a to-go tray with 3 lemonades. "I come bearing celebratory drinks." Tia clapped. "You read my mind." Monica straightened. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," Donovan said simply. "This is a big deal." She took the drink fingers, brushing his. The small things were still the ones that caught her off guard. They all sat on the floor together in the middle of the empty shop. Tia laid out her markers and started sketching bakery signs on scrap paper while Monica and Donovan watched. So he said after a while, "Have you thought about names? I have a whole list," Monica replied. "Some of them are terrible. Let's hear a few." She pulled her phone out and scrolled to her notes. "Okay, there's Honey and Rye. Then there's Whisk and Heart. That one feels like a rom-com title." And Tia suggested, "Mommy's Yum Place." Donovan grinned. "Strong contender." Tia added without looking up, "I still think it should be Magic Muffin Kingdom." "I'll keep that in the top 5, Monica said. They laughed, and for a moment the space didn't feel empty at all. It felt like the beginning of something full. Donovan leaned back on his hands. "Have you told your mom?" Monica looked down. "Not yet. I think I've been afraid to. She'd be proud." "I hope so." He was quiet a moment. "Then, what about Cameron?" Monica tensed. He called again. Donovan didn't move. "What did he say?" "He asked if he could take Tia to the park. Just the 2 of them." Donovan's eyes stayed steady. "What did you say?" I said, "Not yet. I told him she needs more time." He nodded slowly. "That sounds fair." Monica looked at him. "Do you think I'm being too cautious?" I think he said gently that protecting your daughter doesn't make you cold. It makes you a mother. Her eyes burned. "I don't want to punish him. I don't trust the version of him I used to know. And I don't want her heart getting caught in that." Donovan reached over, covering her hand. "Then trust yourself. You've done everything right so far." She held onto his hand for a moment, longer than she meant to. Across the room, Tia said, "I drew a menu." They both looked over. Tia held up her paper proudly. "We'll have blueberry muffins, banana bread, and chocolate chip cookies. Also tea." Monica smiled. "All the essentials." "And lemonade," Tia added, holding up her drink. Donovan gave her a toast. "A girl after my own heart." Tia giggled and started scribbling again, completely in her own world. Monica leaned closer to Donovan, voice lower now. "She's been talking about you a lot. In the good way. That's a relief. She said you make the room feel soft." His brows lifted. Soft, I think she meant calm. Safe. He looked over at Tia, then back at Monica. "That's the nicest thing anyone's said to me in years. She doesn't give compliments lightly. Neither do you." They smiled. The silence between them stretched again, but this time it didn't press. It pulsed with something gentle. Something alive. Monica let her eyes roam the space again, bare walls, stained tiles, flickering overhead light. And she didn't see what was missing. She saw what was possible. And for the first time, she didn't feel like she was walking into that future alone. She had her daughter. She had a dream that was no longer just scribbled on receipts. And maybe she had something else. Something solid. Something that started in the middle of a mess and kept growing anyway. Like love. The bell above the bakery door let out a soft chime as Monica flipped the sign to open. The morning sun was still low, casting amber streaks across the sidewalk, and the scent of warm cinnamon and lemon zest floated from the ovens in the back. Her apron was dusted with flour, her cheeks a little pink from the early baking rush, and her heart, after everything, felt steady. She exhaled slowly, palms pressed to the worn wood counter, and took in the quiet hum of her dream finally breathing on its own. People would come soon, locals first. A few curious neighbors. Maybe someone who saw the flyers Genevieve had plastered on every bulletin board in the city. But right now, for a few rare minutes, the shop was hers. Tia burst through the kitchen door, a smudge of chocolate on her nose, and a tray of cookies wobbling in her hands. "Mom, I made the sign for the specials board." Monica turned, eyebrows raised. "Let me see." Tia ran to the chalkboard and held it up like a trophy. In bright, lopsided letters it read, "Magic Muffin Kingdom now serving joy." Monica laughed, covering her heart. "We really need to hire a sign artist." Tia shrugged. "This has personality." "It does." Monica smiled and knelt down. "I'm proud of you, kid." Tia grinned. "I'm proud of you." Monica swallowed the sudden lump in her throat. "Go wash up, okay? Our first real customers are coming soon." Tia disappeared into the back. Moments later, the front door opened again, and there he was. Donovan stepped in like he belonged there, because in a way he did, wearing a dark gray sweater sleeves pushed up and that familiar warmth in his eyes that always made her chest ache in the best way. He held a single white daisy in one hand. "Is this the place that serves joy?" he asked. She smiled, wiping her hands on her apron. "Depends. Are you here for muffins or answers?" He stepped closer, setting the daisy gently in the old milk bottle she'd been using as a vase. "I was hoping for both." She tilted her head. "We're open now." His eyes searched hers. "You sure?" She nodded. "I'm not running anymore." Donovan exhaled a breath like he'd been holding it for days. "Then I'm here. For all of it." She reached for his hand, and this time didn't let go. They stood in the soft glow of the shop, quiet, steady. The bell chimed again, and an older couple walked in, glancing around with curious smiles. Monica greeted them, still holding Donovan's hand as she welcomed them in. Tia popped out of the kitchen to offer samples. The space filled slowly. Neighbors, friends, strangers. Laughter, conversation. The clink of mugs. It wasn't chaos. It was rhythm. A heartbeat. Later, after the rush had softened and the sun had settled higher in the sky, Monica stepped outside with Donovan. They leaned against the brick wall, sipping iced tea from mismatched mugs. She looked at him, her expression tender. "You know," she said, "when I first met you, I thought you were a problem I had to survive." Donovan smiled. "You didn't hide that well." "I wasn't supposed to be here," she added. "Not in this city, not in your penthouse, not starting a business with money I didn't grow up believing I deserved." He turned to her, his voice soft. "But you are here." She nodded. "Because I stopped waiting for perfect and just chose possible." Donovan didn't say anything right away. Then, "That's the bravest thing anyone's ever said to me." She leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. "You know," she said after a pause, "you never asked me what I wanted from you. I figured you'd tell me when you were ready." She pulled back enough to look at him. "I want a life that doesn't need to be hidden. I want laughter in the kitchen and burned muffins sometimes, and hard conversations when they're due. I want love without needing to earn it first." His eyes softened. Then that's what we'll build. And I want Tia to grow up knowing that love isn't about fixing people. It's about walking with them even when the road's cracked. He reached for her hand again. I've never wanted anything more. Back inside, Tia was now behind the counter, explaining to a man in a baseball cap that the banana bread was scientifically the best one. The man nodded solemnly, ordered 2. Life wasn't perfect. Cameron still called, sometimes checking in from a respectful distance. Monica still had moments where doubt whispered in her ear at 2 a.m. The oven still broke once a week. But it was real. And for Monica, for the girl who once scrubbed floors in silence, who carried her child through storm after storm, who never imagined she'd be chosen for anything lasting this life, wasn't just enough. It was more than she'd dared to ask for. And it was hers.